He thought Christmas would pass in silence until he heard a knock on his mansion door. Behind that door stood a child who would force him to face the worst mistake of his life. The snow fell in heavy, silent sheets over the estate that Christmas Eve, blanketing the long driveway and the iron gates in a thick layer of white. Inside the mansion, every room glowed with soft, golden light, but the warmth didn't reach the man sitting alone in his study. Marcus Hale, CEO of Hale Industries, stared at the fireplace, a glass of whiskey untouched on the table beside him. The house was enormous, decorated with perfect Christmas trees and garlands that a professional team had arranged weeks ago. But there was no laughter, no footsteps, no voices, just silence. Marcus had spent the last 15 Christmases alone and tonight felt no different. He told himself he preferred it this way. No obligations, no disappointments, no one to remind him of what he'd lost. Outside, the wind howled, and somewhere far beyond the gates, the world celebrated. But here, in this fortress of wealth and isolation, time moved slowly, like a wound that never quite healed. Then through the silence came a sound. A knock, soft, hesitant, almost too quiet to hear. Marcus frowned. No one came to his door uninvited. The gate was locked. Security was always watching. He ignored it. But the knock came again, a little louder this time. With a sigh of irritation, Marcus stood and walked to the grand entrance. He opened the door, ready to send whoever it was away. What he saw stopped him cold. A little girl stood on his doorstep, no older than 7, her coat too thin for the freezing night, her cheeks red from the cold. Snow clung to her dark hair. Behind her, barely visible in the shadows, was a woman, hunched and shivering, leaning against the stone pillar as if she might collapse at any moment. The girl looked up at Marcus with wide, desperate eyes. "Please, sir," she whispered. "Can we come in? My mama is so cold." Marcus felt something twist in his chest, an old, buried instinct he thought he'd long forgotten. He should say no, he should call someone. But the girl's voice, so small and brave, cut through every wall he'd built. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said quietly. The girl's face lit up with relief. She turned and helped her mother inside, guiding her gently as if she were the adult and her mother the child. Marcus closed the door behind them, sealing out the cold, and for the first time in years, his house felt like it held something more than just him. He led them to the living room, gesturing toward the couch near the fire. The woman collapsed onto it, too weak to speak, her breathing shallow and labored. The little girl sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. Marcus studied them in the firelight. The woman's face was pale, worn by hardship, but there was something familiar about her features, something that nagged at the edges of his memory. "What's your name?" Marcus asked the girl softly. "Lily," she said, "and that's my mama, Sarah." Sarah, the name hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He took a step closer, his heart pounding. "Sarah Collins!" The woman's eyes flickered open, and when she saw his face, recognition flooded through her. It wasn't a relief, it wasn't gratitude, it was painful. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice cracking. Marcus sank into the chair across from them, his mind racing back 15 years. Sarah Collins. She had worked for his company, a promising young engineer with a bright future, and he had destroyed it. There had been a project, a failed deal, millions of dollars lost. Someone had to take the fall, and Marcus, under pressure from the board, had signed the termination papers. He'd blamed Sarah for mistakes she didn't make, falsified reports to protect his own position. She tried to fight it, tried to clear her name, but no one believed her. She was blacklisted. Her career was over. Marcus had told himself it was just business. He'd moved on. But Sarah's life had never recovered. "I didn't know," Marcus said, his voice barely audible. "I didn't know that I ended up here." Sarah's voice was weak, but there was no anger in it, only exhaustion. "I lost everything, Marcus, my job, my reputation. No one would hire me. I had Lily a year later, and I've been trying to survive ever since." Lily looked between them, confused but protective, gripping her mother's hand even tighter. Marcus felt the weight of 15 years crash down on him all at once. He had lived in luxury, built an empire, convinced himself he'd earned it. And all the while, Sarah had been out there, struggling, suffering, paying the price for his cowardice. "Why didn't you ever come to me?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Sarah gave a sad, tired smile. "Would you have listened?" Marcus had no answer because she was right. He wouldn't have. The room fell silent except for the crackling of the fire. Lily looked up at Marcus, her small voice breaking the stillness. "Are you the man who hurt my mama?" Marcus met the child's eyes, and for the first time in years he felt something he'd thought he'd buried forever: shame. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am." Lily didn't look away. "Can you help her now?" It was such a simple question, so direct, so pure, and it shattered every excuse Marcus had ever built. He nodded slowly. "Yes, I can." That night, Marcus called his personal doctor, who arrived within the hour. Sarah was treated, given medicine, warmth, and rest. Lily was fed, wrapped in blankets, and fell asleep on the couch, her tiny hand still reaching toward her mother. Marcus sat in his study long after everyone else had gone to bed, staring at the fire, feeling the full weight of the life he'd lived and the lives he'd damaged along the way. When morning came, Sarah was stronger. She sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in her hands, watching the snow fall outside. Marcus joined her, setting a folder on the table between them. "I can't undo what I did," he said, "but I can try to make it right." Inside the folder were documents, a full reinstatement of her professional reputation, a formal apology letter to every company that had blacklisted her, a job offer at Hale Industries with a salary that reflected what she should have been earning all these years, and a check, enough to cover years of lost income, medical bills, and a fresh start. Sarah stared at the papers, tears streaming down her face. "Why now?" she whispered. Marcus looked at Lily, still asleep on the couch, her small face peaceful in the morning light. "Because she asked me if I could help," he said, "and I realized I'd spent 15 years pretending I couldn't." Sarah didn't take the job. She didn't want to work for Marcus again, and he understood. But she accepted the apology, the reparations, and the restored reputation. Within months, she had a new position at a rival firm, one that valued her. Lily started school in a safe neighborhood. They had a home, they had hope. Marcus visited them once a few months later just to see how they were doing. Lily opened the door and smiled at him. "Mama says you're different now," she said. Marcus knelt down to her level. "I'm trying to be," he said, and he meant it. That Christmas, Marcus didn't spend the night alone. He volunteered at a shelter, serving meals to families who had nowhere else to go. He looked into the faces of strangers and saw Sarah, saw Lily, saw all the people he'd ignored for so long. And for the first time in 15 years, he felt something he thought he'd lost forever. He felt human. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that it's never too late to choose kindness, to right a wrong, or to open the door when someone knocks, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change everything, not just for the person receiving it, but for the one giving it too.